Guys, so basically what we have seen in our part 1 of the demo, that we have an application which we have deployed, a simple web app application, ASP.NET application. We used the Visual Studio for our testing, and what we have done is like basically we have fully integrated with our Visual Studio from the developers edition or developers workstation back to the Azure Git repo, and the connections are being established and everything looks fine. Now we're going to deploy a complete DevOps cycle using one build pipeline and one release pipeline. So for doing that, our architecture, the reference architecture is here. As you can see here, we have developers using Visual Studio, and when they're doing the code changes are going to the Azure Git repo. And from the Azure Git repo, they are actually we have Azure CI pipeline, which is our build pipeline, and we enable the continuous integration trigger. So as soon as the changes are done in the code in the master branch of our Git repo, the build pipeline got triggered, and it does some tasks, including some testings, and then it builds the image, and then it put into the or deploy into the staging slot. At this stage, we will get a email notification that the new version of the application, the new build version of the application, is available in the staging slot, and you are ready to go and see its behavior. So once you actually get the notification that the build version of the application, the new build version is available, you can test it thoroughly. And once you test it, at the same time, if we have enabled the release or the deployment pipeline integration with our build pipeline, what's going to happen is that the deployment pipeline will be will actually get the new build version from the build pipeline, but it will wait for the manual approval. So once you are satisfied with your application behavior and looks, the new looks in the staging environment, you can approve the deployment pipeline step, and as a result of this approval or manual approval, the deployment to the staging slot will happen, and then it will also do a slot swap between production and the staging slot. So let's have a look how it looks like. So let's go on our Azure. As you can see here, we have our staging our application, Bingo application, is up and running. As you can see, let's browse the production version of this application. It's some warning security messages, so it's a version 3.1 here, as you can see. And let's have a look on the staging slot of this application, how that look like. So let's browse that one. And so basically both are actually on version 3.1 at this stage. So let's go back to our Azure DevOps. Please make sure that we are actually going to use the we're not going to use the Microsoft hosted agent pool. What we're going to do, we're going to use self-hosted agent pool, and for that purpose we have deployed a Windows VM, which is online. As you can see, it's up and running. We also have put Visual Studio build software or build software or build tools basically on this machine, which is a prerequisite. So this machine also have connectivity to the internet, and it's ready for doing the job execution from Azure DevOps. So let's go back to the Azure DevOps as we project window. So let's go and as we can see the repo as well one more time. Our repo is ready, which is version 3.1. The last code update was 3.1 15 minutes ago. So let's go back to our pipeline description. So let's create our first build pipeline. So we will use the classical editor, and it will, first thing is that it's going to ask you is that from where it's going to read the code. So we say Azure Git repo, and then we will go with Azure Web App for ASP.NET deployment template. There are some modification needs to be done. We can call it for build, and we have to put into the right pool, and then the first task it is doing is NuGet, getting the NuGet version and then store it. So let's change it to the latest version, which is 6.7.0. We'll go with the version 6.7.0. Okay, and just build the solution, archive the files, do some testing, and then it goes for the web app deployment. So at that stage, it will go and deploy the web app into the application. As you can see, there are a couple of things, very important things are here. One is the connection to our Azure subscription, which is basically you can manage it through by defining new Azure service connection if you have not defined it. And then it will talk about the application type, the application name. All of these things will happen once you log in into your Azure account, or you will actually using your Azure connection. So let's go back and try to use our Azure service connection. Create our first service connection. So we'll go with the Azure Resource Manager. We'll go with the Workload Identity Federation. We can call, it's asking for the user ID and password, so we'll put the user ID and password. Okay, and then we will say the resource group is test RG. As you can see, we can call it 28th December 2023 connection. Okay, and then we'll grant permission to all pipelines. So this is the step required for defining the service connection. So once we define service connection, and then we go back to our creation of the pipeline, because pipeline was asking for a service connection and it's not giving us the option to put the subscription manually. So we have to define the service connection first and then go back to the pipeline. So let's wait for the service connection to work and then we go back. It's ready right now. So let's go back to our project again and go to the pipeline. Try to create a pipeline here. Go to the classic editor and go for this template. We can call it, we'll put it into the default pool, right? We'll change it to the version 6.7.0. We'll get 6.7.0. Okay, let's go get the NuGet version, then it will restore the NuGet version, build the solution, archive files, do some testings, and then it will go to the web deployment step. So as you can see here, basically we have the deployment step name, and this one we have to put the Azure. Now it's actually showing the connection information. We will say web app on Windows. And it will deploy. Let's deploy only in the staging slot, not in the production. So we deploy in the production staging slot. So we'll just save and queue at this stage. This is our build pipeline. Okay, and we first time manually run it. So first time manual run will actually show you that there is no issues in our pipeline of our release our build pipeline. Once this is successful, we go back and enable the continuous integration. So let's wait for a few minutes to get this first execution of our build pipeline successful. So our first execution of our build pipeline, manual execution, was successful. So let's go back to our pipeline one more time, and here if you can edit the pipeline, and here we will go to the trigger tab and enable the continuous integration. Is already enabled. We'll just enable it and then save it. It's already there, but if it's not there, you have to make sure that it's there. So pipeline is ready, and then we go to the release now. In the release, we define a new pipeline for the release or the deployment, and we will select Azure App Service Deployment with a slot. This is the template we need to select. Okay, and then go to adding an artifact. So it's going to read it from our CI pipeline. The latest version is there, right? We enable the continuous deployment trigger so that as soon as the new version of the application is available, the deployment will get initiated. However, we will define manual approval process as well. As you can see, the pre-deployment approval, we enable it, and we will put our name is there as our approver. Now there's some errors in the task, so let's go and check what the errors are. Yeah, you have to define this one. So agent is perfectly fine. No, agent also have to go to the default pool. Then you have deployment to the slot, Azure Resource Manager. So we have to do this subscription. So we put the connection here. Then we put the application here. Put the application name here. The resource group is going to be the test RG. The slot has to be in the okay, and then staging. So bingo application, and then staging is here. It's not picking up properly, so just type it down, and then we will actually, so task is there. So as you can see, everything looks fine to me. So let's save it. Right, so we have right now defining our deployment pipeline. So let's so our both pipelines are ready. Our build pipeline is ready, which has been executed one time, and our release pipeline or the deployment pipeline is also ready. Let's rename it so that we can have a better name here. We can call it 28th December release pipeline. Let's save it. So let's go back. At this stage we are ready for deployment, so let's go back to our Visual Studio, and we can say version 3.2, which makes some changes here. We'll save it. We will actually, after saving it, we are going to do a git commit. This is version 3.2 of our application. We commit all, and we will sync to the Azure Git repo. So at this stage, we are syncing our new code to Azure Git repo. As a result of which, the release pipeline, the build pipeline should be triggered, and we'll get the notification after the build was successful. So let's go back and check. As you can see, it's running right now. Automatically got triggered. So it's now building our new image of application. It's successfully done. We should have actually an email saying that, yeah, it says that the new build is successful. As you can see, the build was successful, right? And it was it's basically triggered by the change in the code. If you want to test it at this stage, you can go back to your application, and check the application version. It's got deployed in our staging, so staging is actually should be showing the new version of the application. So we browse it and we should be able to see here. Yeah, so version 3.2 we got it. So now so our basically build was successful, and now it's basically as a result of which, again, because we have continuous deployment is also integrated, so now it's asking for the approval because we have tested the application looks fine. So we go back and provide our approval, we approve it. I have checked version 3.2 and all seems good, so I provide my comment of the approval and I approve it. So as soon as I approve it, the deployment should be automatically triggered. As you can see here, it's already working right now, and as you can see, the pre-approval deployment approval is complete and it's running on the agent. Once it is actually done, you will get the new version of the application deployed successfully on your production slot. Remember that it will swap the slots, as a result of which the production slot will become staging and staging slot will become production. But essentially it's a complete DevOps cycle which we have implemented in this demo for our simple web application. Hopefully you like this demo. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you there in my next video. Thank you for watching.